GM to all of my best ball brothers and sisters in Christ. We have the portfolio review today. We are going to recap the highs and the lows of the Week 16 semifinals best ball sweat. We'll also recap some of the GPP teams from the Week 16 main slate, underdog lineups, the deposit kingdom stuff, all of that good stuff. Hope everyone had a wonderful Christmas. Let's get into it.
I suffer from a debilitating condition known as atropic chalkitis.
Peter's one of the greatest depositors I've ever seen.
Trust the process. Let's go.
I got auto matched with Levitan. This is bullshit.
If I just go the other way in that 66, I win all the money. All the money.
If I had 150 lineups, I'd win too.
Process over results.
Make a bitch go crazy. I don't know which one of these my baby. Bust out AP, coach 5 bullets in your head like KD. Bust it, bitch go bust it. And I had 10 pints with me in Russia.
Hey everyone.
All right. Good mornings in the chat. If you've been on Twitter, if you've been on Discord, it's been a nonstop stream of stories like this, right? You were either on the good side of it, you were on the bad side. More than just Solar needed a CMC or Ayuk TD on that last drive to advance in BBM, lost by 5 points. I feel you. Kubert on the other side got a team through to the DK Millie. Matt Wood has a slow puppy. Copper Prices, I think I saw you got a BBM team in. Very nice work. Joe Razzle's like, forget about Week 16, man. I'm ready to roll up my sleeves and then fix best ball for next season. We got a long time to do that. GMs all around. Star Kindler here to offer condolences and hope to those it applies to. Yes, a wide spectrum of emotions. I definitely was on both sides of that experience last night, and my heart legitimately goes out to everyone who was heavily invested in their teams, came up, just this close to punching a team to the finals and didn't get there. Honestly, it was one of the more agonizing sweats that I've ever had. I was trying to unpack it because I'm generally pretty good about not, just having that visceral sweat reaction. Like I'm normally able to pull back and separate myself and be like, Pete, it's just fantasy football. Not a big deal. But I got my heart ripped out last night. And I think it's partly because of how the game and the sweat unfolded. And also just because I streamed all 150 of these drafts. I know how much the odds were stacked against me in a lot of ways to get a team to the finals. And I started to get really excited about the idea of getting one team to the finals. After doing this exercise, the only person to ever stream all 150 of their drafts. And I'll pull it up and walk you guys through. I gave a quick TLDR of it on Twitter last night. But yeah, it was agonizing. So basically I had this team. It was the 20th team I drafted. It was this Swolecast team. And let me see if I can get it pulled up here. And heading into last night's game, I needed basically 24 points from Christian McCaffrey, or I needed George Kittle to hunt down and eclipse Juwan Johnson's score. I think Juwan Johnson had 11 points, but I felt like the cleanest part of the sweat was just Christian McCaffrey getting to 24 points. And I was like, I don't know, that's within the realm of possibility, but against the Ravens, I hadn't gotten my hopes up. But then he has that touchdown early in the game. He's immediately up to 16 points or something there in the first half. And I'm like, all right, fuck it. I'll buckle up for this sweat. I will buckle up for this sweat. And the second half ended up being one of the most agonizing sweats of my goddamn life as I'm watching the 49ers get absolutely boat raced by this Niners team. And you're starting to wonder, are they just going to pull McCaffrey? What incentives are there to keep these guys out on the field? That was the legitimate concern, is just don't give up another touchdown. Just extend one drive, because I'm worried they're going to bench the starters. So George Kittle starts heating up. He eclipses Juwan Johnson in this lineup. And then I'm like, okay, now I have multiple outs to get here. The rub ended up being that the team in first place, Mr. Fantasy Grinder here, he was done except for Brandon Ayuk. But Brandon Ayuk, I think, needed to get 10 points or so to start hitting his lineup. And Brandon Ayuk was pretty, quiet in the first half of that game, didn't have much. But then on that final drive, me and Fantasy Grinder went back and forth from winning on 4 different plays. Absolutely absurd. You know, Kittle gets a catch, I go into first. Then Ayuk gets a catch, he goes. The one that was really tilting there was I got in the lead after that Kittle catch. And then they had that fourth down, right, where Debo barely got the first down. I think Harbaugh even challenged it. If he doesn't get the first down, the game's over. I win. Ayuk gets another catch. We get all the way down, right, to the red zone, and they have it at, what was it, like the 4-yard line. CMC gets his rush and gets down to the 1-yard line. Needed that 6 points at that point because he had distanced his lead to here. What was it? 165.62 for the audio listeners, 162.96. So then I was basically drawing dead to a touchdown to either CMC or Kittle. CMC gets stuffed. Sam Darnold goes incomplete, sack, interception to end it. And there goes our best ball mania dreams. So I really just didn't like how that sweat unfolded. It was a brutal, brutal way to watch that game unfold. And also just that flippening of seeing yourself in the lead, then losing it, having a chance to get back into it. And I know a lot of people were experiencing similar stuff. I've seen screenshots of Ayuk getting other people. I've seen screenshots of Zay Flowers getting people in and all of that good stuff. So a total roller coaster there. My team with Gretsch was also very, very close. This team ended up losing by, what was this? In this pod, the winner had 152.48. We had 144.86. We had CMC on this team and Devontae Smith. Just needed a little bit more there to be in the mix. I believe this team had Zay Flowers though and started to pull away. So yeah, a little bit off in this pod, narrowly off in this one. And that's all she wrote. That's all she wrote. I thought some of these teams were going to be a little bit more live after Saturday. Like the team I had with Sean here had T. Higgins and George Pickens going on Saturday. So I was like, all right, this thing could cook. But we ended up getting 6 points total from our quarterback there. From Brock, our 2 top running back picks, Ramondre and Travis Etienne, don't hit the lineup. Nothing from Achane. So yeah, this team was dead on arrival, all things considered. So that was it. That was the BBM sweat. I will say, I was very impressed and almost surprised how many people I know that we know in the Deposit Kingdom and the content space who got teams to the finals. Obviously, Karain, I saw Beimfor, I saw Sanderson. There's multiple people in the Deposit Kingdom. And I think we actually need to do a roundup of everyone in the Deposit Kingdom who has a BBM4 sweat going, just so we can get a proper list of who to root for. But the fact that in a tournament with over 670,000 entries or whatever, that we have like legit handfuls of teams in the Best Ball Mania 4 finals in a 440 person final is truly incredible. So I know there were some rough sweats. Clearly I was on the bad end of it there, but just want to give a kudos to everyone who drafted well this summer, drafted a lot of teams. Based on the results, I still feel very strongly that the Deposit Kingdom is the sharpest best ball community out there. I think the results speak for themselves across the Badge Bros, across Ship Chasing, across Best Ball Breakfast Nation, all of that good stuff. You guys absolutely crushed it this year in a sport with a ton of variance, with a ton of volatility. I think that skill really shined through. So congratulations to all of you who got teams to the finals, and it will be fun to sweat this out. And I hope the Deposit Kingdom can take it down once again. It will be fun to check in on that. I need to pour some coffee, do some ducks, and then I can review the 2 teams I did get through to a finals here. 1 second. Let's get some ducks going. Yeah, we need the ducks this morning. I kid you not, last night, I almost ejected from the sweat. I was pretty exhausted after a long day of Christmas festivities. And I was like, 24 points from CMC this game. It was like right before he scored the touchdown. I was like, I think I'm just going to go to bed at halftime. I'm like, I'm not going to, at that point, I think I still needed like 20 plus points from CMC. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to eject from this sweat. And then he scores that touchdown. And I'm like, fuck, I'm saddling up for this. So that CMC touchdown ended up costing me a lot of agony because I was dead ass ready to go to sleep and not deal with that. Let's pour some coffee here though. This will help. All right, we got our coffee. So we were fortunate enough to get 2 teams in the big board. Those of you who have been watching the channel all off season will remember I was doing a decent amount of big board drafts, and then I kind of let my OCD completionist side kick in, and I decided I was going to max it by via slow drafts. And so I ended up maxing the big board. I had 8 teams here in the semis. And I have 2 teams going to the big board finals. It's a pretty big final. What is it? 400 plus teams? Is it like 480, 470 or something like that? But still a nice top prize here to chase. 200,000 to first, 50,000 to second. So we'll have 2 bullets at it. One of my teams was just the absolute week 16 nuts. I don't even know if I like it that much from a week 17 perspective because it has so many of the chalk pieces, but 183.96. It's a Dak Prescott, Jordan Love, Kenny Pickett team, but these running backs were pretty nutted here. Christian McCaffrey, Breece Hall, Rashad White. And then I had basically all of the week 16 all-stars other than Amari Cooper, I guess. I had T. Higgins, I had George Pickens, I had Gabe Davis, and then all I needed was 7 points from Isaiah Likely. But really, the trio of Davis, Pickens, Higgins, along with the trio of CMC, Breece Hall, Rashad White, and that was plenty to advance this team. And then my other big board team advanced here, edged out our guy King Capital, last year's regular season Best Ball Mania winner. Here, this team I think is a little more fun for the finals. It's a Justin Fields, Jared Goff team. It has some unique running backs, I think, in Alvin Kamara. I haven't seen him on too many screenshots of advancing teams, but DeAndre Swift, Jahmyr Gibbs, Alvin Kamara, Raheem Mostert, Tyler Algier, and then the wide receivers should be a little unique as well. I don't think I've seen a lot of Devontae Adams, DJ Moore on teams. This one got dragged through by Amon-Ra St. Brown, Romeo Dobbs, DJ Chark, and Darius Slayton. Talk about the ultimate better in best ball team here. Darius Slayton and DJ Chark. These were guys I didn't draft a ton in Best Ball Mania, but before the schedule was out and before we had the NFL draft, these guys were more of my primary targets. Whereas once the draft comes out, I think I shift these picks to rookies primarily. But here we're able to get DJ Chark and Darius Slayton, who both cracked the lineup, and then 12 points from Cole Kmet. So these are my 2 bullets. I am not going to get too heavily invested in these sweats. It's a very big final. But yeah, we'll keep tabs on this and see if something can get fun next Sunday there. Oh, I did also want to mention one of the other gross things about my Best Ball Mania sweats there. Where am I here? I had Amari on a team. I had Amari on one of the Swolecast teams. But the team was so bad, it couldn't even sniff it. I guess it was in 6th place here. But after that Amari explosion, I was like, holy shit, this team could be good. This was another Swolecast team, a 2-7-7-2. It was a Tua Geno team. The running backs, DeAndre Swift, James Cook, Khalil Herbert, Tyler Algier, Devin Singletary, Chuba Hubbard, Jerome Ford. And the problem is, you get 15 from Swift, you get 18 from Herbert, 15 from Algier. Thanks, Arthur Smith, for getting Algier in there, but didn't have any of the big scores that you needed from running backs. And then wide receivers. Stephon Diggs doesn't crack my starting lineup. Jalen Waddle doesn't crack my starting lineup. I get 7 points from Deebo Samuel. There's the 46 from Amari. JSN cracks this lineup at 9.1. And then Dallas Goedert score at tight end. But man, this one feels like a waste. To get the 46 burger from Amari, end up being like what here, 30 points off of first place. So it's not like it was a close call, but it does sting to lose or not have a sweat, at least with Amari Cooper. So yeah, those were my Best Ball Mania sweats there. You can see in my other stuff, I had a Bulldog team in the semis. This team fell flat on its face as well. I ended up finishing 5th out of 6th. The team in first ran away with it thanks to an Amari team. So I didn't have any of the big scores in week 16 on this team. Had Zay Flowers, CeeDee Lamb was fine, but not enough running back points. Nothing from Kenneth Walker, nothing from Achane. And this one goes home here. That was a bummer. That was one of my favorite teams I drafted. And one of my bigger takeaways of wanting to do more smaller field stuff, more mid to high stakes stuff. Had a Chow Chow team, finishes in 7th. And what was my other one? A Palm Palm finishes in 9th. So all of my sweats in best ball down to just these 2 big board teams. But yeah, it's been a fun ride. It'll be good to have a couple teams in the big board there. Wish we could have gotten a bullet into BBM, but we got plenty of people to root for here. Yeah, so the thing is like, yeah, Derek says winning the big board is like getting 3rd in BBM. I'm not poo-pooing the chance to win 200,000, but the odds of getting that are just as long, as it is getting a top score in BBM, because it's an even bigger final. I guess I'm just not letting myself get emotionally invested. I'm sure by the end of the week, I'll start to come around. I'll start to look. But I think after getting my heart ripped out last night, I've moved to more of a nihilist perspective of nothing matters, and I'm not going to get emotionally attached to my dog shit big board teams. And the other thing I will tell you about getting your heart ripped out, I started to fall in love with my roster from a week 17 perspective. I was looking at this team, and I'm like, I'm going to get this Derek Carr stack against this Tampa Bay Bucs secondary in week 17. I got the Mike Evans bring back. I'm sitting here and I'm like, I have Christian McCaffrey going and George Kittle going against the Commanders defense. And I have Kenneth Gainwell, DeAndre Swift, and Devonta Smith going against the Cardinals defense. And I started to salivate about this team because I'm like, this is going to be a pretty unique team. I think not having the Amari, not having the Pickens, not having the Gabe Davis, the Higgins. I was like, this team could do some damage here. And I started to fall in love with that week 17 stack. And that's what you're never supposed to do, right? Never fall in love with it. Never look ahead because then you're just going to be disappointed. Philly, I'm so emotionally invested in my dog shit big board finals team after getting nuked everywhere else by Amari. We hold on to the 1 bullet. Yeah, maybe we can, Philly, can we get Easy to make us a big board sheet, a final sheet, so we can check what our exposures are in that, or maybe Underdog will release the data for that. So that is it for my main best ball sweats there. I definitely, I think throughout the week, we'll see some more teams and we can try to compile the sweats there. But I don't know if I have anything more to say about best ball here. I'm looking through a few of these other teams that didn't advance. A big board super flex team. The Undercat, man, this is the one that stings. It's like best ball mania is fine, but to have your Undercat team get bounced, and look who advanced in my Underdog room, or in my Undercat room. Are you fucking kidding me? This guy, John Curick, 711, winner of the Dog Bowl here. This is who I get beat by in the Undercat. Just when I thought today couldn't get any worse, I see who beats me in the Undercat. My beautiful team. At least I beat Dan Zach down here. 9th place, Peter Overzet. 10th place, Pepper Prince. Look at this. How many tight ends did he have on this team? 1, 2, just Hayden Hurst, Dallas Goedert, Pepper Prince. Eat shit down here, Dan Zach. I don't care if Curick won. I beat Pepper Prince, Dan Zach, the 4 tight end, Sim Lord King in the Undercat. That's all I need to be happy today. Pius, I need Pete to pour one out for my 555 team. Lamar, Gibbs, ETN, Kyron, Reek, Evans, Kittle, Laporta, Likely. It was robbed of a real chance at capital D destiny. I'm sorry, Pius. That's brutal. It's fun to have sweats in those higher stakes entries. Light of Truth. Yes, thank you for the production translation. Did you play any DFS this week? I played a lot of DFS this week. I was firing at all the showdowns. I played the 3-game slate. I played more volume on the main slate than I had in a while. So yes, let's transition over to there. Let me also mention later today at some point, I actually haven't figured out the exact time, I'm going to record a best ball playoff strategy show with Karain. I think I'm just going to do it pre-recorded and then I'll upload it probably later this afternoon or early this evening whenever we get around to scheduling it. But you can keep an eye out for that. I'm getting excited. The way I've been kind of balancing my play is early in the week, like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, firing at playoff best ball. And then as we get later in the week, I start firing at the dailies. I know we'll have some good week 17 Underdog contests. But yeah, keep an eye out for for that show with Karain later today. But yeah, let's talk a little DFS. I got dusted this week. I will show you the team I put in the double spy here. Let me recap it for the audio listeners. It honestly feels like a lifetime ago. I mentioned this on a few shows this week with how the schedule for week 16 unfolded with a Thursday game and 2 Saturday games, Sunday main slate, Sunday evening, 3 Christmas games. It's just felt like this has been an eternity. So I barely remember this action from Christmas Eve, but I had a Justin Fields double stack here with DJ Moore and Darnell Mooney. And then I knew I really wanted to get in my 2 Dolphins here, Devon Achane, who was my Gold Star lock of the week on the cram. You too can become a YouTube member and get my Gold Star locks that put up 4.1 points. This one also had Ty Chandler, JSN, Tyler Conklin at tight end, and Dolphins defense. Just a dog shit team, all snowflakes other than Justin Fields. So yeah, the Justin Fields chalk ended up being a disaster if you brought DJ Moore along for the ride with it, which I did. Fields comes in at 26.3% in this double spy. DJ Moore comes in at 36.5%. I knew the Dolphins stuff was going to get squeezed. It's why I wanted to play it. Achane 9.4%, Tyreek Hill 7.8%. One of the plays I did feel good about, I think I had 2 of 3 Ty Chandler. Once Alexander Madison was ruled in, he, I thought, became a much stronger play down here at 15.6%. JSN at 7.8%. I thought that was a really good play. We talked about that on the cram as well, that people were going to be gravitating sub 4K with their punts, and some of these guys above 4K were going to get squeezed. So JSN at 7.8%. That play I feel good about. But yeah, just no nuke scores here. The main stack fails. My Dolphins mini stack fails. GG, shitty lineup. We move on. In the big spy, I did want to attack this spot via a Seattle double stack with Geno Smith. So this team was Geno Smith, Tyler Lockett, and JSN with a DeAndre Hopkins bring back. Punted it off at running back with Chuba Hubbard and Ty Chandler. Had a one-off Cole Kmet here, and this one didn't have Cole Kmet in the other one. And then CeeDee Lamb is kind of a piece I knew was going to get squeezed by the pricing dynamics, everyone gravitating to a much cheaper Justin Jefferson. That play ends up working out. You get CeeDee Lamb at 10.5% in this big spy. He drops 28.2 points. And then I ate the Jets chalk defense here at 27%. This one I specifically put in the large spy because I knew it was going to be far more contrarian. Geno Smith at 4.4%, Lockett 4.5%, JSN 10%, Hopkins 6.1% there. So yeah, that one, that game was just, the clock just bled that entire game, which is always the risk, when you have, Pete Carroll and Mike Variable squaring off. But yeah, feel good about those stack numbers, and yeah, just couldn't get that to fully hit. The Hopkins bring back, you needed that to be the big dog. Who would have thought? And again, the Ty Chandler Chuba combo didn't hit. Let's quickly see what took down first place, and then we can look at the Deposit Kingdom. And I also want to look at the lineup that Reeves and I built on stream on Friday, because there are some funny little quirks and coincidences about that lineup. But the first place team, of course, you had to have Amari Cooper to win tournaments on DraftKings.com on Sunday. Joe Flacco. I mean, look at this chalk, man. Look at this chalk. Not a single play sub 10% on this roster. Joe Flacco, 12.8% to Amari Cooper and David Njoku. Amari pops off for 54.5 DraftKings points. David Njoku was nearly 30% owned, gets to 16.4. This lineup plays Roschon Johnson, which I think was extremely sharp once Deontay Foreman was ruled out. Actually kind of surprised at this ownership. I think people were asking on the cram, does Roschon get steamed? And I was like, I would be surprised if he ends up over 10%. So I was wrong on that. He comes in at 16.4% here. Breece Hall was the other guy you needed. How about that? It was a Breece Hall, Amari Cooper, week 17 correlation that you needed in week 16. Who would have thought? Can't wait to watch those two duke it out on Thursday night and combine for 14 points. This lineup also had Amon-Ra St. Brown at 13.9%, Dontavian Wicks at 21%, Calvin Ridley at 26%. Just an absolute banger of a lineup here. But nothing that sneaky. So we don't get to praise them too much because they're not a 2 GPP bro. They just ate all the chalk. Yeah, so let's talk about this real quick, and then I'll look at the Deposit Kingdom. So I did toss the lineup I made with Reeves in the this single entry, just the fair catch or whatever. So the lineup we built on stream was pretty sick. It was the Joe Flacco, Amari Cooper, David Njoku, Chuba and Devin Singletary, Mike Evans, Garrett Wilson, Evan Ingram, and Bears D. And we had even talked about on the show, like we ended up going double tight end here, but saying like you could mix and match, play Breece Hall or Garrett Wilson. This lineup goes for 187 points. But if you were in any contest this week, this lineup was duped. It was duped in multiple spots. In this fair catch single entry, here's 1, 2, 3 other teams who had it, or this one was a slight variation on it. 2 teams had the exact same lineup. I guess Hilo from 1 week season, he had, let me pull up his thing here. He had put this lineup in one of the bigger millionaire makers. Let's see if I can find this here. This was so ridiculous. So he goes, Mark tweets out, fraud alert, the Game Theory guy's roster was duped 5 times in the 555 milli. He posts the screenshot. Kyle's all confused. Kyle goes, how did you get to this lineup? I'd assume the sum owned would expect this to not be duped, but if it's like the 7th highest projected Flacco team, that's how it would get duped as many times. And then I post a screenshot of Reeves and I building this exact same lineup. And it was funny because Reeves does his show Searching for Ceiling with Hilo right before I asked him to hop on to Block Party to sub for JM. And he had said that they had built out like a Joe Flacco double on the show, but then with Singletary bring back, but then had stopped short of fleshing it out. So then he hops on the show, we flesh out the lineup, the pieces come together, and you could even see the look in Reeves's face right when he built that lineup. He's like, oh shit, that's the lineup. That's the lineup I want. And apparently it was the lineup a lot of people wanted. So it's pretty funny. Even if you go look at like the double spy, 187.02, like in all of these contests, this lineup was there in some form. Here's 2 people have it in here. Jeter Boots had that exact same lineup. BS and Dark had it. Yeah, so if you would have just played the lineup that we build on Friday, which I don't advise you do, but this particular week, if you had done it, you would have finished 19th in the double spy for $700. So Reeves was on fire. He was dialed in on Friday. And if you blindly tailed that lineup, it worked out well for you. Yeah. Yesterday was or Saturday, Sunday, whatever goddamn day it was. Nick says he had a team with Amari St. Brown and Mike Evans and broke even. Yeah. The DFS shit, man. And same with the best ball sweats, right? Like, it's like, oh, I have Amari Cooper on one of these teams. Surely I'm advancing. And it's like, nope. There are a lot of attack vectors across a lineup. And sometimes even getting the huge winners is not enough. Let's recap the Deposit Kingdom tournament, and then we can go check out some of my Underdog teams. I actually had a decent amount of Amari Cooper in Underdog, so I had a much better day over there on Sunday. But the Deposit Kingdom Weekly League, we did fill this week, thankfully. We had to make it smaller in week 16 because the 420 entry in week 15 didn't hit. 375 entries this week. Good job, everyone, for filling this. I don't recognize this username here, Olafu, Bogstel. I'm just spelling it out because I don't want to take an attempt at trying to pronounce that as one word. But congratulations to, we'll call him or them, Olaf. They had a Nick. Is this a naked Nick Mullins team? I was scanning to find Justin Jefferson on this team, and he is nowhere to be found. Here we go. Nick Mullins, Derrick Henry, Breece Hall, Mike Evans, Jamal Agnew, Amari Cooper, David Njoku, James Conner, and Jets. Okay, my brain is broken. So Olaf here did Amari and David Njoku, but then didn't do Joe Flacco and went down to Nick Mullins? What is going on? What is going on? I'm losing my mind. James Conner at 2.9%. You know, Breece Hall with the Jets D. I like that correlation there against the Commanders. Derrick Henry's a pretty sick tournament pivot. Mike Evans and Jamal Agnew, a little mini correlation there. I did a Mike Evans, Parker Washington mini on one of my teams, I think. I guess this lineup is, I mean, James Conner there as kind of leverage against the Chicago stuff is kind of interesting. I guess I'm mainly just stunned at not getting to Joe Flacco in this lineup. That's pretty wild. And I know, you know, I had took this is in the Deposit Kingdom. Yeah, we should actually see what Mullins was in the Big Spy, if anyone knows, or we can tab through here. But Mullins was projected for pretty high ownership. And I never thought people were getting there. It was certainly like an algo-based one where he was grading out as one of the better pump plays. But I just thought people are either not going to use Mullins in tournaments or they'll stack him with Justin Jefferson, who was, I think, a very solid stacking partner. But to get there with a Nick Mullins team that doesn't have Justin Jefferson is wild. Let me see if I can find a Nick Mullins team. So Joe Flacco comes in at 12.8%. And what's so crazy is he's only 200 more than, or 200 less than Joe Flacco. I'm just still marveling at playing Amari and David Njoku with no Flacco there. Let's see if I can find 17.4% for Mullins in the SPY. Okay. So yeah, he did come in much higher there. There you go. Yeah, 17.4%. But this is the kind of lineup I would expect to see him on more. This is a Nick Mullins to Justin Jefferson skinny. I mean, that stack, while chalky, certainly paid off. 23.54 for Mullins, 29 for Jefferson. Congratulations, Olaf. I would love to pick your brain about the story behind this lineup, but congratulations on taking first place here. Head of Temple did the more classic Joe Flacco double stack, also had Breece Hall. That really seemed like the pairing you need. Man, how sick is DFS? You play a Joe Flacco double stack, you hit Breece Hall, and you hit a 30 burger from Amon Ra at sub 10%, and you get second place. DFS is sick. JSoul32 played Aaron Jones with his Joe Flacco double stack lineup. Oh, this was actually a triple stack. I actually like that a lot for this small field. Tosses in Cedric Tillman at 3,300, kind of replicating that lineup we looked at. Was it 2 weeks ago or last week from the Fantasy World Champions, where that guy rolled out a Joe Flacco triple and ended up in second place. Man, there were just a ton of high scores on Sunday, right? Didn't have the Amon Ra, but you get Mike Evans here, drops 27.6 points, and then does the Evan Ingram thing here as well. So this was pretty similar to the lineup we built on stream, just a few different pivots. Breece Hall instead of Garrett Wilson. You get up from Chuba to Aaron Jones. You get the double tight ends, and you go down with your punt to Cedric Tillman. I like the tweaks that JSoul made on this roster. Oh yeah, thank you, GA. GA can bring up all of the painful things here. I think that's about it for DraftKings. But yeah, let's pull this up before I look at some of my teams on Underdog, and we can go through my pick'em graveyard right now. But man, we were one Trey McBride tutty away from generational wealth on Sunday. Where is this one? Here it is. So we built this one on Often on the Clock. It was an all-spice pick'em entry. Breece Hall touchdown, David Njoku touchdown, Mike Evans touchdown, Justin Fields rushing touchdown. All of them checked the box. And then we head to the second half of the Cardinals game, and all we need is Trey McBride, Trey McGronk to get a tutty. And I'm turning five picks into 5K. I saw tons of screenshots from you guys in the Badge Bros channel across all the Deposit Kingdom channels. It seems like a lot of you guys tailed this. I really, really was hoping the Deposit Kingdom could get a Christmas windfall via Trey McBride, but Greg Dortch was the one who got the touchdown instead. Greg Dortch, Short King Summer really stuck it to us on that one. And it wasn't like the Cardinals weren't able to move the ball. You know, James Conner was running well. Greg Dortch gets a score. But Gronk really depriving our families of a really nice Christmas. Yeah, I mean, I was wondering what the underdog liability was on that. I think I saw my guy Ashton was in the Discord and had put 100 on it to win 10K. Mine was 50 for 5K here. Man, the Trey McBride. And I think, like, if you think about the probabilities of which ones of these were the hardest to hit, I think McBride was kind of in the middle there. What was his spice? Was it 2x or 2.25x? I can't remember, but just another gut-wrenching moment from this weekend there. Let's check out some of my underdog teams. Ended up having a profitable slate on Underdog thanks to finishing in 4th place in DUPE. This was such a funny run out here because this team I had in the bomb is a Joe Flacco, Amari Cooper, but it has Amon-Ra St. Brown and Sam Laporta. And the bomb, for the audio listeners, this is the $100 entry on Underdog. I've been trying to get more entries in that because obviously just a much smaller field, and I've had a decent amount of success in it lately. But this team, I started with Amon-Ra and Laporta, and I was doing a little bit of portfolio balancing because in the Battle Royale, I had very little Amon-Ra and very little Laporta. I was very heavy on McBride and Njoku. And so I was like, you know what? I'll do a little hedge here on this $100 entry. I'll do a Laporta, Amon-Ra, and then I'll grab Jared Goff and I'll set that out. I get sniped by the Jahmyr Gibbs drafter in this room. And so I'm like, I had already taken then I say, I got to set up a backdoor stack. So I grab Amari to Joe Flacco. Normally any other time I was building this Joe Flacco stack, like I did it in the fullback dive, I had a decent amount in Battle Royale. I'm just doubling it with Njoku and Amari. But here, this was just a break glass in case of emergency backdoor stack because I got sniped on Goff. But this team is Flacco, Amari, Laporta, Amon-Ra, and then Rashad White and Breece Hall at running back. It finishes in 4th there for 2K, which ended up giving me a profitable day in the Battle Royale streets. I had a fullback dive team that finished in 10th place here. That was more the quintessential Joe Flacco, Amari Cooper, David Njoku. Had Mike Evans, Justin Jefferson, and I was sweating this one a little bit because I'm like, man, everything else here is in great shape. And then I'm watching Devon Achane in that 4 p.m. window there do absolutely nothing. He finishes with 3.6 points. You know, anything from Devon Achane, and we're probably getting into the top 5 here of the fullback dive. That was one of the more frustrating things for my portfolio on Sunday. I was massive on Achane. I'll show you my exposures here. This is probably, I don't know if I've gone this hard on a single slate as far as condensed exposures. For the audio listeners here, I had 43% Devon Achane. I had 32% Trey McBride, 32% Jonathan Taylor, 25% Mike Evans. So yeah, the Achane stuff really dragged me down in a lot of spots, but you know, clackety clack, we pushed it all in on him and it didn't work. I want to give a quick shout out to John Boy Beats, who took one of the more insane, you know, exploitative angles on this slate. I think he posted on Twitter that he had, I think it was like 95% Flacco. It was an absurd number. And he ended up having a lot of top finishes. I know he made like 5K, finished it here in 14th and 15th place. Does go to show how perfect you need to be in these battle royales to have what I assume was what, like 60%. John, you'll have to let me know, like Joe Flacco, Amari, across your portfolio. Glad that you were able to get home there. I think, you know, I know John Warner from the Badge Bros does a good job with it. John Boy here, obviously. I think collectively we need to be more willing to take some big stands, specifically in the weekly stuff. I'm obviously way more against that, I think, for season-long best ball, just from how you think about a portfolio over the course of the summer. But in the single-week stuff, like knowing how hard it is to get to first and really taking a stand, and then building as many combos around that as possible, I think is something I want to explore more. And congratulations to John Boy for having a lot of success with it here. And I know he was in all of these contests. I think in the fullback dive, yeah, he was just ahead of me here with a Flacco Amari team, and then just mixing and matching everything around that. So congratulations to John Boy there. I need some more coffee. Let's just check out which team won the Battle Royale. I do always like looking and seeing what the first place team, Ben Roethlisberger, congratulations, 20K. Joe Flacco, double stack, Amari Cooper, David Njoku, Breece Hall, Justin Jefferson, Mike Evans. So, you know, Joe Flacco was one of the better picks in Battle Royale. So you guys know I always talk about, you know, what percentage of the time are these players getting drafted. Joe Flacco, based on his ADP, was not getting selected a lot. However, I think a lot of people who were taking either Njoku or Amari were naturally getting funneled to Joe Flacco. My guess is his overall drafted percentage came in around 40 to 50%. I don't know if anyone has gone through. Has Underdog released the updated data? I know that they released the Battle Royale data set from most of the season, but I don't know if they plan to continually release these for the updated slates. I would be curious to know what Joe Flacco's percentage was. But my point here is this was an interesting lineup to take down Battle Royale because it's just a super logical lineup in that you do the Joe Flacco stack with Amari Cooper, David Njoku. Every other player in this lineup was getting drafted in nearly 100% of contests. Breece Hall, ADP of 21.1. Justin Jefferson, ADP of 5. Mike Evans, ADP of 8. Amari Cooper, ADP of 22. Or sorry, I was reading the pick number. Evans, 8.5. Justin Jefferson, 3.4. Amari, 22. Njoku, 17. So nothing like quote unquote sneaky about this lineup other than being willing to double stack with Joe Flacco. And then you just needed to get the right combos, right? You needed the Jefferson Evans pairing and you absolutely had to have the 37 points from Breece Hall there. We can look at second place, which was a very similar lineup, but didn't have Njoku. Had the exact same lineup, but Cole Kmet at tight end. And, you know, I think in general, this is probably the more optimal build for this size contest in the long term, where you just skinny stack the quarterback and then you try to hit the other one-off tight end at a higher clip. But this specific week, you get David Njoku outscoring Cole Kmet by less than a point, and that's the difference between 10,000 and 20,000. Also just noticed Crutches here in third place. Man, Crutches running beautifully hot these days. Congratulations, Crutches, on your son running these days. Justin Fields to Cole Kmet, Amari, Calvin Ridley, Evans, and Breece Hall. Ridley, another guy that you would have loved to have part of your portfolio on Sunday, 22.8 points. Nice team there. Yeah, OG, 5 likes. You guys suck. What, everyone's bitter? You didn't get a team to the Best Ball Mania finals and you're withholding your likes? Goodness. Yeah, let's get some likes going here. Man, I will say it's been refreshing the entire summer. I just remembered, you know, drumming up, trying to get subscribers, trying to hit our goal. And now I'm just lazy. Now, unless one of you in the chat, you know, remind me to pander for likes and subscribes, I generally forget. So yeah, if you're new to this channel, we do this show traditionally on Monday mornings. We had Christmas yesterday, so we postponed the portfolio review. I definitely plan to keep this rolling throughout the playoffs, because we'll be playing in all of those slates. We can continue to recap things, and then we'll have to figure out what our plan is after the Super Bowl as far as this morning time slot. But I do like having this morning time slot regularly. And yeah, we'll have to figure out kind of what some of the programming is going to be. But I'll tell you what, I have a feeling Underdog is not going to let too much time pass without us having teams to draft this year. So I'm sure we will be back in the best ball streaming streets in no time. All right. The what says the like feature has been bugged when live. There are over 60 likes. Thank you. I'm sorry for like shaming you guys. Just pour coffee for an hour. I'm working with Dog right now on a year-end highlight video, just from all the different shows and stuff. And he put in a little coffee montage at the beginning of that. So I'm hoping to get that out. I just gave Lou some feedback notes on that this morning. Hopefully that will be out by later in the week. We'll have to see how that comes together. But yeah, I can't believe we are almost to the end of the year here. When is the 1st? Is that a week from yesterday? Yeah. So I'll have to see what kind of schedule I'm going to have for stuff. I think this is going to be a relatively normal week. Like I said, I'm going to do the playoff best ball show with Karain, hopefully in a little bit. I need to actually touch base and see if we're going to do the club here today, and then we'll have the usual stuff. JM should be back on Friday, and it's going to be fun to start drafting dailies for this week 17 slate. All of those week 17 matchups that we discussed and talked about all summer long are finally are here. And I will say, like, one of the things that's so interesting and about the, people being upset with the pod dynamics, although I will say, I feel like the discourse around the pod dynamics was awful last week, and the amount of like bitching and complaining I saw. I haven't seen as much complaining about it after last night. So I don't know, maybe the people who made it to the semis just were more agreeable than the people who didn't. But the one thing I was going to say is, part of the week 17 is all that matters thesis was because of these dynamics and how hard it is to get a team there in the first place. And then just saying, you know what, if I do happen to wake up in week 17 with a team, it sure would be nice to be optimized for that specific week. And so I do think, like, specifically in these massive tournaments, that week 17 correlation is going to come in really nice. And I already know, like, it'll be really fun to review the lineups, because my guess is the BBM4 finals lineups are going to have more week 17 correlation on them this year than we've seen in previous years by a very good amount. I've already seen screenshots of a lot of your teams, and there's like correlations everywhere. That's why I was super bummed not to get the Derek Carr team into the finals, because I was looking forward to that Derek Carr versus the Bucs secondary with the Mike Evans bring back there, but it was not meant to be. But yeah, it goes back to that thing. I think it was on a show with Justin Freeman where he had looked at the bring back data for the Millie Maker versus some of the smaller field in mid-stake stuff on DraftKings. And what he found was that bringbacks were overused in the kind of smaller contests, but underused in the bigger contests or the super top heavy contests, where it's like first place or bust, that bringback is correlated with those 95th plus percentile outcomes, very similar to what happened with Karain last year with his Carolina and Tampa stack with DJ Moore on the bringback there. So I hope a week 17 bro takes this down and you get that beautiful double stack with a bring back for all the monies, and we can quiet the week 17 haters once and for all. There you go, Jason. Jason has week 17 correlation all through my final BBM lineup. I need to get a full roundup. How many are there? 800 people in the BBM finals? I swear to God, every single one of you has a team in the BBM finals. My entire Twitter feed is just filled with people who have a team in the BBM finals. Am I the only person that didn't make it to the finals? Yeah, Jay Chang thinks this is a big win for me, not advancing. All the conspiracy theorists thought that Pete was at easy pods can be laid to rest. Do you know what also was so cruel? So I have the ongoing bit with Davis about Brandon Ayuk versus Deebo Samuel. And, Deebo Samuel just been burying me every single week on the main slate, dropping 30 points. I continue to dig my heels in for Brandon Ayuk. Neither of them do a ton last night, but Brandon Ayuk definitely led those two in points, and he was my undoing. The man that I have stumped for, the man that I have defended throughout this long Deebo stretch, was the one to shiv me in my team. That's how you repay the favor, Brandon? All I've done is defend you to Deebo Samuel Nation. And how do you pay me back? By outscoring Deebo and sending me home. What a cruel game we play. What a cruel game. All right, there's Charlie. 7 finals bullets, but none to BBM. My finals team goes to a different school. Yeah, my finals team, she lives in Canada. We met online, and someday you guys will get to meet her. Nolan has a team in the DK Millie. Shout out to the Bricks draft caddy. There you go. Brick's working on some playoff best ball overlay stuff. I don't know what his update is on that right now, but you might be able to keep an eye out for that if you're ripping playoff best ball teams. This is going to be the other big sweat here. I do think I'm going to lose this one. I have the bet with Davis of who Leone is going to project more, but some idiot tagged Leone on Twitter about this last night. It's like, no, the whole point of this is Davis and I have this bet and we have to leave Leone unbiased and separated. You know, it's like you know, something with like a jury or whatnot, right? Like they can't be consuming outside, you know, media about the trial they're about to oversee. Some idiots out here tagging Leone. It's like, no. Let Davis and I see how this JSN versus Lockett projection pans out without Leone knowing about it. But for those of you who don't know, Davis and I have a bet. I don't even know how much it's worth. Is it like $50, $100? About who Leone is going to project for more points in week 17. And this might be the truest form of nerddom betting. It's not who's scoring the most points week 17. No. All we care about is the process. Which one of those two is going to project better? I honestly think Lockett will have the edge in projection. JSN's been coming on strong, but Lockett continues to earn targets at a high clip. It's going to be like 12.6 for Lockett and 11.4 for JSN. One of the saddest bets you'll ever see. I will say, Corey says stacking Detroit and Dallas was actually bad now because it's chalky. I think of all the screenshots I've seen, I have seen a shit ton of Jared Goff. Jared Goff and Amon-Ra I've seen on a ton of teams, and Gibbs. Yeah, I think if you have one quarterback or you have a team that doesn't have Jared Goff on it, I think that's a pretty nice spot to be sitting. I saw it was Gormanji in the ship chasing chat. He posted a team that had Aaron Rodgers on it. Let me pull this one up here. I just like imagine all season having to stare at an Aaron Rodgers dead roster spot, and it doesn't even fucking matter because you're going to the finals. Dak Prescott, Aaron Rodgers, Brock Purdy, Jahmyr Gibbs, DeAndre Swift, Brian Robinson, Jalen Warren, Ty Chandler, Zamir White. Nice little modified anchor RB team here. CeeDee Lamb, Garrett Wilson, Amari Cooper, JSN, Brandon Cooks, Rashee Rice, Jalen Hyatt, and then a couple GAM tight ends, George Kittle, Sam Laporta. But I just love that Aaron Rodgers dead roster spot, and you just replace him with our generation's Aaron Rodgers, Brock Purdy. That was one of the best use cases for best ball last night. Is it drowned out the noise of the Brock Purdy MVP conversation. I mean, is there like, who gives a shit honestly about the MVP stuff? But man, people love arguing about it. Brock Purdy melting down, ruining his chances to be MVP, it looks like. If you have no CMC versus Washington, it's going to be a brutal fade. Yeah, it's one of those. This is where the perverted stuff though of how the tournament dynamics work, right? Because the people said the same thing last year. If you don't have Justin Jefferson against the Packers, it's going to be a brutal fade. And then what happened? Justin Jefferson did jack shit. So it's like one of those things of you're either going to be holding hands with 30% of the field. What do we think it's going to be? 25, 30% have CMC. You're holding hands with them and just all going to then play 17 v 17 on the rest of your roster. Or if you don't have CMC and you're like, maybe the production gets consolidated elsewhere, maybe he only scores 15 plus points. Well, now all of a sudden you have a real leveraged angle, specifically if your first round pick can outscore him. Like if you drag a Tyreek Hill team, to week 17, I'm trying to think what other viable first round picks will we see on a lot of these rosters. I want to say I saw so a CeeDee Lamb one I think would be an interesting one where that's really what you're starting to sweat. Like, can my first round pick outscore CMC? And then on top of that, you're doing it at much lower ownership. Bingo. Dude, that's the other thing. My stack, that other Derek Carr team I didn't have getting through, it was a Bryce Young double stack with Terrace Marshall and DJ Chark. I really wanted the screenshot of I advanced a Bryce Young team to the Best Ball Mania finals. I mean, I don't deserve that team in the finals after drafting Bryce Young over CJ Stroud all summer. Guys, I'm telling you right now, I don't think CJ Stroud is playing. I mean, if you read, I really hope I'm wrong. If you read about his concussion stuff and what he's dealing with light sensitivity issues, I don't know how this dude plays. If I've missed a report and he gets out there, but I really do not think we're seeing CJ Stroud this year. CD probably as chalky as CMC. I doubt that. Because CMC has had more massive weeks through the playoffs. I think you're going to see CMC at a much higher clip. Christmas slate, how did I do? I did on which site? Underdog or DraftKings? Let me pull up. I normally have XM on Tuesdays, but we're off today for holiday reasons, so we can spend a few extra seconds here. Let's see. Does not look like I did too good. Had a couple entries into bomb, but fanned out there. I had one team that I thought was going to be decent, but nothing there. Christmas coin toss 2. Finished in 208th place. Christmas coin toss. Yeah, I didn't have, I think you needed Slayton, right? I guess, Slayton ended up getting outscored by Zay Flowers. That's a bummer. I thought anyone who scrolled down to click Slayton, here you go. Yeah, that's a bummer. I feel like a Slayton team should be rewarded. Slayton team gets 3rd here, but you needed the Devonta Smith, Zay Flowers. So it ended up being a chalky combo here. And was this actually duped? CMC, Saquon. Yeah, so the top team was duped here. Man, that's such a bummer. You get 3rd place. You scroll all the way down to Darius Slayton, which was a sick click. I was scrolling down to Hyatt and Wan'Dale Robinson, but I didn't get to Slayton. And then you get edged out by a dupe train. I feel like Don is my Christmas coin toss people's champ here. Am I a degenerate? How do you define degenerate? Because I played all of these slates? I guess so. I don't think I'm that abnormal. Everyone in the chat, tell copy paste dates. Did you play on DraftKings this weekend? Did you play on the Christmas slate? Did you draft in the week 17 or week 16 dailies? I think you might be surprised here. You won the coin toss too with Slayton? There we go. Let me see the coin toss too. Oh, hell yeah. There you go. First place for 4K, Jalen Hurts. And this is, again, one of the nice things about, I think, and I struggle with this too. You know, they got the main contest, all of the, the biggest prizes, and then it fills and they drop a second one and you're kind of like, but you don't have to be perfect to win these smaller ones, right? So the second coin toss ended up being 4,500 entrants. The first one was 45,000. So literally a 10th of the size. In the first one, you needed a 114 to take it down. But then our guy, Andrew Weekland here, only needed 109, didn't need Barkley in this one, and then didn't need Zay Flowers, was able to get it home with Zamir White and Darius Slayton there. So yeah, I love this team. Jalen Hurts to Devontae with a Darius Slayton bring back. You play CMC and George Kittle, and then a one-off Zamir White there. Very nice team. Congratulations there, Weekland. All right, here it is. All the degens confirmed. You know what? I had the moment. It must have been sometime over the weekend. I think it was when I was like, you know what? I have a really clean sweat for this Baltimore and San Francisco game, I'm like, I don't need to play showdown. I can just sweat my best ball teams, yada yada, my 3-game slate teams. And I said, no, I'm going to play showdown, because I had that moment where I'm like, in 6 weeks or whatever, 6-7 weeks, this is all going to be gone. We're not going to have any football to draft dailies on, to do showdowns. Yes, we'll have season-long best ball, but like that immediate gratification of drafting and getting to see the results play out, this is going away soon. And so I think I had like one of those you only live once moments. This matchup isn't going to be here pretty soon. Might as well play it. Take advantage of these slates while we got them. And then we will enter the cold, long winter. Robert got a ticket to the finals in the Puppy 2. Congratulations. Appreciate that, Robert. Thank you for a fun season. I do genuinely, if you allow me a second to be genuine, I do really appreciate all the comments, those of you guys that enjoyed the streams this summer, and just all of us eating and sleeping and breathing best ball together nonstop. I really appreciate all the comments. And like I said earlier, glad and stoked that so many of you guys had success this year and still have some sweats alive. It really did make it for a funner kind of communal experience. And I haven't figured out how I'm going to approach best ball streaming next year. I know I will be streaming. I don't know if I will be streaming all 150. We will figure it out. There will be plenty of best ball streams regardless. But yeah, this year was a blast. And, you know, from, I guess, to put like a bow on it, now that the experiment is done, I think it was a pretty successful endeavor, all things considered. I don't think it is necessarily a coincidence that some of my best teams that were live were drafted on the Swolecast, and not because David Kitchen presents me with so much EV, but more so not having to host and not signaling when I'm hopping in a draft room. Like, those were the two things, you know, my best ball breakfast teams having to host and tip people off, that made those much harder, I think, degree of difficulty drafts for me, just as far as building like the best possible team. On the Swolecast, when we drafted those, I wasn't hosting, and we hopped in those drafts right before we went live. So I think they were more, you know, normal rooms. So I do think there is a bit of a correlation there. The ones I didn't have to host ended up being, you know, the better ones on my team. But then on the other hand, I'm like, Gretchen and I were absolutely hammered on that best ball after dark team, and it was like 10 points away from advancing. So it's probably bad form to draw too much conclusions from small sample sizes. But I do think not having to host while drafting is certainly helpful there. But I think on some of the good news, or the reasons that actually helped me, I had a much more naturally diverse portfolio in BBM than I ever would have if I was drafting on my own in the quiet of my own home. I think I would have had way more outsized exposures. I probably would have had some players closer to 30-35%, but when over half of my drafts were streamed with other people, it naturally led to a lot more diversification. And I think that's a feature, not a bug, for me personally, just my style there. And it kind of kept me from, you know, piling in too much on bad clicks in ways that I am sometimes want to do. Tyquan Thornton, anyone? So I do really love that element. You can go look at those rosters. It's like, oh, I got a Puka share because Tom Everett Scott wanted to draft one. I got a Zach Moss share because Lord Reeves wanted to draft him. I ended up super heavy on James Cook because Sean Siegel always wanted to draft James Cook. I ended up very heavy on Breece Hall because all of my drafts with Pat Kerrane, he wanted to draft Breece Hall. So you can go through my portfolio, and it was fun because it was hard for me to do 0 RB teams on my streams because so many of the piss boys were lining up in droves to take wide receivers. Then you go over to the Swolecast. One of my best teams was that 2772 0 RB build. I was like, oh, I'm able to execute this over there. So I think there's a push-pull to all of that stuff. It's like, all right, I didn't get to structurally build out as many teams as I'd like. You know, the specific rooms forced me to structures that I had to deal with. Otherwise, I would risk just building suboptimal teams. But then on the other hand, I got to draft with a lot of smart people. I got a lot of natural diversification in my portfolio. And so I do think overall there were pros and cons that probably ended up being close to a wash as far as what it meant for my portfolio. And I think the other thing about that is I think a very diverse portfolio is probably increases your odds for getting a single team to the finals, in that if you're heavily exposed to a core set of players, it's really hard for that core to have massive weeks in both the regular season, week 15 and week 16, right? Like there ends up being a landmine somewhere along the way that can just wipe out a large swath of your portfolio. So there are pros and cons to all of this stuff. But with BBM specifically, I do really enjoy the angle of a diversified portfolio, lots of different textures to the rosters. And because there's so much chaos, it's not as clean as just saying like, hey, I think Joe Flacco is the biggest edge on this slate. I'm going to have 100% Joe Flacco, because you're dealing with such an isolated variable. You're dealing with just one game against the Houston Texans for that thesis to work out. Whereas if you have that thesis across the season, there's so much randomness. There's so much with injuries and then the pod luck and all of that stuff, that it was fun to, have teams that were so different in the finals. Oh, this team has the chalk, Amari. This team has the chalk Pickens and Gabe. Oh, this team has the unique stack that could get through. From a sweat perspective and a portfolio perspective, I really enjoy that element of having so many different teams. It can be brutal to know what you're rooting for. That's always the selling point of a hyper condensed portfolio, is like, hey, if these guys go burr, I win. If they don't, GG. But on the other hand, it's almost like I'd rather let everything come together for one roster and get that one roster to the finals, because it's just so hard to get a core of similar teams through. Man, copy paste dates, asking all the hard questions. Are you a degenerate? What do you sell? Is this my dad's burner account here? What do I sell? Nothing, buddy. Just sell vibes. Sign up on Underdog. Use promo code Pete. Become a YouTube member. There you go. Join the deposit kingdom. Joe Razzle, Pete, would you consider streaming teams with the listeners, confident we could draft a team that gets castrated in the semifinals? Are you talking about basketball teams next year? Yeah, man, this is, when I lost out on the Battle Royale week where I had 2 top 10 finishes, yes, did I want the $30,000, but God, I also wanted those goat horns. I need those goat horns. I feel like such a fraud on the dog app without goat horns. Oh yes, I sell bucket hats. I still am, I'll have to see my accounting on my merch store after this year. I'm still down on the merch store lifetime, I think. So I do technically sell bucket hats and merch, but I don't profitably sell merch yet. Any other questions from copy paste dates before we round up? You want to ask me anything hard hitting? Do I believe in God? What happens after we all die? Anything else after all these softballs here today? I'm going to do one more coffee pour before we power this down. I know. It's funny too, because Pete's Coffee, that's my only issue with starting my own coffee brand is I guess I could just spell it my way, right? With 1 E instead of the 2 E's. Maybe I make that my life's mission. Cooter Doodle's life's mission right now is to get Shart in the New York Times Wordle. Maybe mine could be to build a coffee conglomerate named Pete's that's bigger than the incumbent Pete's. Seems like it'd be a tough road. I don't know if that sounds like an enjoyable entrepreneurial experience. How is Baby made? I've only made one. So my experience might be too anecdotal. I've only done it one time. I think I just got lucky. I actually don't feel comfortable giving tips on how babies are made. Maybe someone who has more than one could help him out here. Ooh, this is This is a fun question. And then I am going to wrap up here because I'm going to do that show with Karain in a little bit. Where it is it? What is your biggest takeaway from playing DFS this year? That it's really fucking hard and that the field is very, very sharp. And if you aren't using, some combination of optimizers and sims, you are probably going to be a losing player long-term, and that we should all reorient how we think about DFS to an entertainment perspective. That's kind of macro. What I learned myself from playing DFS this year is partly because of, and I've mentioned this on DFS After Dark a couple times, but I've spent far less time tinkering, hand building this year than I have in previous years. And part of it used to be fun for me, right? Like I would tinker with my lineups on a Sunday morning for like legit 2 to 3 hours, run into a dead end here, check my product ownership and my ceiling projection, see if I can build a better one, yada, yada. This year, because of both time constraints and spending a lot more time and effort underdog drafting, I have done less tinkering. I've relied on the sims far more, and I'm basically kind of like cherry picking lineups, or starting with a very clear thesis of like, hey, I want Devon Achane and Tyreek Hill in this lineup. What are the best lineups around that? So like one of my takeaways is my results have been similar. I need to update my roto tracker. I think I'm slightly down on the year on DraftKings this year, which is similar to my results last year. The year previous, I had a big year. But I don't think my results are that different. And I have really streamlined my process. And to me, that's like a big win. It's like, it's one thing if you spend a shit ton of time doing this and lose. At least now I don't spend as much time on it, and relying on the sims to kind of say these lineups work in conjunction, these players, these correlations work, and then I can just kind of cherry pick. Hey, I really want a Kenneth Walker team. I really want a Geno Smith double stack. What is the best version of that lineup? So I guess some of my takeaways is like the DFS space is really hard right now. I like shot taking, right? I think I could have a better ROI if I played better tournaments, if I did smaller stuff, do the juke, do the sub 500 person entry fields. But I'm just such a sucker for, I want to win the goddamn SPY, and I'm willing to take my lumps there as I shot take. But even on Underdog, I've really started to adjust my contest selection. I'm playing more of DeBomb, and I'm making sure I'm maxing the fullback dive in the smaller contests, because I do think I have an edge in those drafts, and it's a lot easier to realize that than it is in the battle royale. So those are a few kind of thoughts for me, but really I have started putting way more volume into underdog drafts because they're just easier. They're softer. And I'm not saying easier to win, but the competition you're going against it's not even comparable to what you are battling in the DFS streets. The DFS landscape has gotten super, super competitive. I still love it from an entertainment perspective. But unless you are going to be hyper focused on contest selection, I think you need to be approaching it from that angle. Wow, what a callback from KZ here. KZ, thank you for the super chat, my friend. Is that a little Scottish there? Little David Montgomery Australian put another awakey. God, man. For those of you who don't remember, during Best Ball Summer, we had a bit going where if you sent a super chat with a specific accent, I would cover for you. It was basically the boss button there, because the idea was so many of you guys were watching the streams and doing drafts at work that I offered to provide a service. So KZ, beautiful callback to that, by the way. How do I explain what you do to my daughter? Oh, we're back to the hard questions. Here's the thing, JC. She's 1 year old. And so I don't really have to explain that daddy's a best ball streamer quite yet. Copper, I've enjoyed my weekends more now that I haven't played DK in 7 weeks. Yeah, I mean, the fun thing about, like, you get the double entertainment equity with a draft. Like, if you enjoy drafting, like I assume a lot of us do, like, and I guess the equivalent, right, is building a lineup because I rely now like on the sims and the tools and stuff way more. Like that's a less, like I'm not getting entertainment equity out of building DFS lineups in the way I get entertainment equity out of doing a draft. And then you're getting the sweat no matter what. And so kind of getting that double whammy, the double bang for your buck, certainly has made drafting teams more enjoyable. All right, guys. I am going to power this down here. 20K sub goal next year. Yeah, I should probably get better at YouTube. I should probably get more subs. You know, we did the streaming angle this past summer. It was fine, but it's still like, it's still rolling up your sleeves, earning every single subscriber. Maybe I should just start doing top 5 trade targets, top 5 guys to draft now, top 5 guys your fucking idiot league mates won't draft, and then we can get to 100K subscribers. Happy holidays to all of you guys as well. I'm going to power this down before I start rambling too much. Appreciate you all. Glad to see so many of you guys had success in the best ball streets. I might have to, I don't know if I need to make, how about this? If you're watching this, I am going to create a thread in the Deposit Kingdom, probably just in the general channel. In the general channel, I'm going to create a thread called Best Ball Mania for finals. And if you have a team in the Best Ball Mania 4 finals, and I'm sorry, I'm excluding the puppy and the big board, blah, blah, blah. But I want to know who from our crew, who from the Deposit Kingdom Discord has a chance at $3 million next week. So if you have a team in the Best Ball Mania 4 finals, I am going to have you post a screenshot of it in that thread. And then we can kind of compile everyone in the Discord who has a chance at that. And I think it would be fun. Then maybe one of our spreadsheet wizards can kind of spin up a sheet showing the exposures or the teams that we're all collectively rooting for this week. So if you're watching this and you're in the Deposit Kingdom Discord, which you should be, keep an eye out for a thread I'm going to post in general right after the show, because I would love to collect all of our Best Ball Mania 4 sweats here. All right, guys. Like I said, keep an eye out for a show from Karain and I later today, a playoff best ball show. I'm not going to do it live, but you can keep an eye out for that popping up later today. Otherwise, hope you guys all have a wonderful rest of your Monday. We'll see you around. Good luck this week.